everyone, and welcome back to another penny stock video. And today we're going to be looking at FDCT. This is a really exciting low float. The chart is shaping up really nicely as well for another move up. So let's just go over why I like this, what the trade setup is here. What are we looking at with FDCT? What makes this attractive? Well, it's got a lot of things going for it, actually. Right off the bat, you can see that it is OTCQB, which means it's retained over a penny for quite a long time. Also means that they are fully audited SEC reporting company, which is always really nice to see. Sometimes when you're playing around in the penny stock world, you get some scams out there, but when they're SEC reporting, that kind of brings a lot of investor confidence to the stock, right? So that's a big factor right off the bat. We're going to take a look at the share structure here. We always look at held at DTC for our float, and we can see that it's a 28.8 million held at DTC. So that is our float, about 28.8 million shares. And that's a very attractive share structure, especially at these prices. I mean, if you just compare other, tickers with similar share structures, they're usually trading higher. That's because this is what we would consider a low float, and I've talked about in previous videos how when you have a low amount of shares in the float, but there's a high demand from the market for these shares, then that's how you can see some really explosive moves to the upside on the chart, which is always great for traders and investors alike, right? So always attractive when you have a low float like this where really any surge in demand can create some pretty volatile movement here. So let's take a look at some other things that they have going on, because they actually did some really interesting acquisitions in 2023 that have brought a lot of revenue to the company. So we're talking about this acquisition here, which is Alchemy Group Companies, which is actually 3 separate companies, and they're all basically trading programs, right? Highly advanced trading programs. Forex exchanges, and I believe some securities as well through these exchanges can be traded. I think right now their focus market is Malta and a lot of European nations, but primarily overseas focus. But Malta in particular, by the way, right here we can see it's become a very attractive domicile choice for Forex service providers, tax-friendly environment with sound legal framework, right? So for those that don't know, Malta alongside Cyprus are actually like the two leading kind of smaller nations in terms of the Forex industry in general. Lots of Forex exchanges are having a lot of success through Malta and Cyprus. So they're in the right location right off the bat, right? So they're acquiring this Maltese Forex exchange. You can see that, it's valued in the many millions of dollars here, this acquisition. But most importantly for us, and this is the big thing, the common stock valued at 11 cents per share for their direct investment from Alchemy Prime Holdings, right? So they're acquiring this company, and they're valuing the shares of the acquisition at 11 cents per share. Our current stock price is 3 cents per share. So the company is telling you, and this is a huge catalyst, by the way, the company is telling you we're critically undervalued here. The acquisition is worth a lot more than the current share price. And for them to be so confident that they're not even going to be able to convert shares until 11 cents, that shows, about 4x upside from here, not to be confused with Forex, which we were just talking about, I should say, about 400%, right, or 300% return from here, from 3 cents to 11 cents. So that's a big move. And we've seen in the market already with plays like Stall, plays like Racker, right, RAKR, STAL, how they made tremendous moves just really based off this catalyst here, which is the acquisition shares being valued at a premium to market price. So that's always been a large catalyst. And again, with a low float like this, I think it really wouldn't even take a ton of momentum to reach this point of 11 cents. If we look at the chart, we see that it did have a really nice run up recently, and it's now retraced a bit. But that previous run up to was almost to 6 cents. And there really wasn't a ton of volume. We can see down here, really wasn't a ton of volume. So it doesn't take a lot of volume to move this. If there's another surge in volume, I think this could see new highs. Absolutely. So we also want to take a look at the quality of these acquisitions and the quality of the company. FDCT. So some of the financials from the acquisitions, I don't believe have been included in this quite yet because they were still finalizing the acquisitions. But even without some of their financials, they have very, very impressive financials here that show that this company is significantly undervalued. We can see that in the 6-month period, total revenues generated for the 9 months ending September 30th, 2023 and 2022 were $6 million, or almost $7 million and $4.5 million, respectively. So that's an increase of 51% in total revenues year over year, right? So that's a massive increase in revenue, huge growth rate, and also significant revenue numbers. I mean, 7 million, what was the market cap on this thing? The market cap's less than 10 million still. So this is trading at almost no price to earnings ratio at all. So it's critically undervalued here at these prices. And so that pretty much wraps up the fundamentals in terms of the revenue. I do want to note as well that they have a net income, so they are profitable. Their company reported a net income of $1,366,000. So, it's quite rare for these microcaps to be profitable, and when they are, it's really a huge bonus. It's a huge bonus for us. So what does that mean? It means, well, when they're profitable, they're probably not going to have to raise as much money through offerings and, convertible debt and things like that. So preserves the share structure, very shareholder friendly, builds value. All important aspects. And then one more thing I wanted to show you from the filings here is on December 14th, they filed a Form 4. So they actually had an insider buy off the open market. The insiders bought 50,000 shares so far. And oftentimes when we see these Form 4s filed, you usually see a series of Form 4s filed. So I do think there's a good chance that we get a few more of these Form 4s because clearly insiders, have shown that they're interested in purchasing shares at these prices off the open market. So that's always extremely bullish as well. When the insiders, and it's right at that price that the insiders are buying. So it's always extremely bullish when you have insiders buying, shares off the open market. Since they're insiders, obviously they have a lot of knowledge about the companies, probably some information we don't even have. So when they're buying, it's always a good sign. And that pretty much wraps things up for the filings. Let's take a look at the chart now, because here we have a really, really nice chart shaping up. Super nice. I think this is just about ready for another leg up here. I do think this has serious potential to break the previous high because we have a higher base that we're starting from now. So if the attention comes back to FDCT and the momentum comes back into FDCT, we're starting from a higher base point than we were back when the stock was just over a penny, right? So because of this, if we see a similar surge in momentum, volume, buying pressure, we should easily break previous highs. Now, the other thing we need to consider is, why did it fall? Well, the reason it fell was because of market maker ASCM, which targets, when these stocks have high volume, it can trigger that. And it's an algorithm market maker, and it comes on, and what they do is aggressively short the stocks. And so market maker ASCM comes and starts shorting, and we can look at accumulation line. The accumulation line tells us, well, pretty much everyone's held, and there's no dilution happening here, right? Because the accumulation line is held very steadily. So what that means is we have a short position here. And ASCM could very well still have a short position here. And so if buying comes back in, you catch them off guard, ASCM is forced to cover higher. And that creates an even larger surge in share price as a result in that scenario. So this really is a nice short squeeze setup here because we know that ASCM had that short position here. So when that volume comes surging back in or that momentum swings back into the stock, what's going to happen? Well, ASCM is going to get squeezed. ASCM is going to get squeezed because they never brought it down that much, right? So I'm willing to bet that they still have a decent-sized short position here and that they're probably trying to cover lower and haven't. And so as a result, we also have this wedge forming, which I've drawn out for you here, which makes this even more of an appealing setup because we have the 50 MA moving up almost to the wedge now, and the wedge is getting smaller right as we go. So all you need is a little bit of buying here and you have a breakout of this wedge, and then it's a really, really bullish chart setup from there. So once we see a breakout of this wedge, it will really confirm that this is ready for the next leg up, and I think we will see that soon because the chart's setting up nicely. It keeps finding buyers in this area. It's consolidating well. Accumulation rock steady. Everything's looking really, really nice about this play. And you can see its bottom wick, it held that 200 MA as well, which is a nice little touch. I apologize for that ad pop-up. There we go. But it held that 200 MA as well, which is critical, right? Critical. So we know that there's strong support down here, and we know that there's buying pressure here. So I do think we have a nice setup on the chart here for a short squeeze, coupled with the fact that, again, we have those shares issued at 11 cents. So it's a huge premium to market price. We have insiders buying. I mean, this is just screaming bullish to me. Tons of catalysts. If you take a look at their Twitter, you can see here's another catalyst that's coming. An update on our tech revenues is coming soon. They said that mid-November or mid-December. We have not seen the revenue projections yet. I'm assuming they'll be quite large, right? Because they just did $7 million in revenue. And with all these new acquisitions, I'm sure they're expecting a lot more. So if we get really strong revenue projections here as well, on top of everything else, I mean, you would think that the stock would be sitting quite pretty after that. So keep FDCT on watch, guys. Remember, I am not a financial advisor. I'm not licensed in anything, even a forklift. So, please always be aware of my disclosures and disclaimers in the description. I really appreciate you guys watching. And here's hoping that we get a really nice trade out of FDCT. So thanks again, and I'll see you next time.